welcome to Stampscaping 101. This is the test that I've been kind of, I don't know, putting off and been needing to get to for a while, but we're going to test media surface compatibility, and we'll be heat setting these different types of inks on these different types of cardstocks, papers, metallics, whatever. All right, now I'm not going to be testing any of these on just a plain matte cardstock because we know that they're going to dry on that type of surface there, but I'm unsure about things like VersaFine Clairs on foils, on Stardrain Iridescent types of paper, Glossy Cardstock, and I don't know, we're going to test out that. The Brilliance inks I know dry on them, okay? But I'm not sure about things like the metallic inks. I haven't tested the metallics. I'm guessing that'll dry just like the graphite black and the moonlight white that I've been testing. But, you know, I just haven't done it yet, so let's give it a try. And then we'll use just a standard pigment ink, something like the Hero Hues, or I could use the Moonlight Duo types of inks there, the standard pigment inks, and there's also the hybrid inks in those as well. So, I don't know, let's give it a shot here. Let me grab a hybrid ink here. I'll just use one pad from that. Or do we want to use the black? Let's use the blue. Okay. All right. Now, one thing I'm not testing for here, I'm not testing to see which ink looks good on these ones. Okay. I'm going to be using like a blue on, on gold or something like that. That's not going to look good, but I just want to see if the ink dries. Okay. All right. So the first thing that we're going to do, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different types of paper. Well, 6 different types of papers. All right. Let me see. This is going to be a mess here. But let's see what we can do. All right, I'm going to be stamping the Spruce Large because it is a solid, pretty wide surface stamp, a lot of surface area, I should say. All right, so let me see. The first color that we'll use, let's go with I tell you what, let's go with the Brilliance Black, okay? And like I said, Brilliance inks, they're designed to dry on glossy cardstock, okay? And I've tested it on the foils, and it dries, very easily. Darn it. Sorry, I didn't have this ready to go here for you. Let me re-ink this. I'm going to be making a lot of impressions with the stamp on these papers, using the given types of surfaces here. Okay. All right. Purple foil. It's very interesting looking. All right. The gold foil right here. I haven't used my gold foil and silver foil too much lately. Love those ones. This is the iridescent. Let me go for another one here. Iridescent Stardrain Metallic, okay? Now the Stardrain Metallic, I find it just works different than, I think. Oops, I really smeared this one. I'm going too fast here. I really smudged that. But we just want to get some impressions down to see how things will dry, okay? All right. Starting off, again, this is the Brilliance Graphite Black, and this is just a big piece of scrap Stardrain Lapis Lazuli. All right. All right. I just re-inked the top of this one, so it kind of fades out a little bit, but it is, all of these do have kind of a big, kind of a, a blob of ink towards the top of the imagery. Okay, so just heat setting. Okay, so on the foils, what I want to do is I want to keep things kind of moving. Okay, I don't know if you could tell in the camera there, but this one right here gave me that rainbow type of thing. If you keep the heat on in any area, I was trying to just expedite that process right there, but it gave me that kind of rainbow effect. I think it looks pretty cool in the background, and I want to use that for effect. But I'm trying to get through it fast. Okay, so that, let's see. See, that's completely dry. Now there's a little bit wet up there. Okay, but if I held it there longer, and I want to get this video moving fast, you know, I could dry that part out up there. But let's see. Yeah, it didn't come off on my finger, so it's just a little bit sticky up there. All right, so that's Brilliance inks for you. They dry very quickly. Now on something like this, I don't know if you could tell, like it gets to be a flatter looking black when you dry it than when it's wet and glossy, okay? Or wet and, I don't know, yeah, just wet. This one right here is the one. The Star Dreams are not like, you know, like foil. So I could watch that as it dried almost instantly, okay? All right, so those are, that's Brilliance. Let's go with a, like a BR. Might as well get all the papers in there while we can, huh? All right. And like I said, this is going to dry just fine on porous papers. All right. So that's Brilliance inks for you, okay? All right, let's try the Starlight Silver, okay? I just find that, I don't know, I thought that Stardream iridescent types of paper would have the same type of drying effect as the Stardream metallic look, okay? They're both kind of considered metallics, but one's kind of more metallic and one's more iridescent, all right? So let's try some of this silver ink, and let's see if that makes any kind of difference. So again, it's still Brilliance, though, all right? And this is the Starlight Silver. I don't know how good this is going to look on the gold here, but like I said, I'm not testing for kind of ink compatibility. I mean, or ink, I don't know, looks, you know, aesthetics, but that sure looks pretty good. That Starlight Silver is really something. I really love that ink. It is just so, I don't know, I mean, it's not chrome, but it's, you know, it's kind of getting there as far as, you know, a certain type of look. Just opacity. Looks like gray there, right? But then, you know, it's metallic, so look at that. Even on white paper, that silver doesn't look too bad. Huh. Might have to try something with that. I never thought silver on white. I've been always doing silver on things like black. Let's try the silver on this silver holographic right here. Okay. I don't know. Maybe I am testing for, I don't know. It's a residual effect of the video here as I can kind of get a feel for it. Look at that. Silver on holographic. It looks more like white on the holographic, or gray, doesn't it? Okay. I've done silver on dark blue before, I think. Alright. That's a pretty good look to it. And silver on gold foil. Usually I'm going gold ink on gold foil, but let's take a look and see how this one looks here. Alright. Alright. Sorry about the tedium of this process here. I should really just kind of time-lapse all this portion of it. Okay, let's go with this. I'm going to try not to burn this paper, but if I do, I don't know. Cut me some slack. Let's try to get several of these dried at the same time here. Just put them all down like this. Okay, let's try that. expediting this process way too much, but I could see the puckering for this kind of cheaper foil right here. This is kind of these two foils right here are kind of the same. They're the recollection types, okay? Now when I say cheap, you know what I mean? They are made cheaper. They're on this kind of, I don't know, like craft style of paper, but the paper itself is really inexpensive, so it's fantastic. It's a great option for us. All right, that is dry. I got a little residual coming off. I didn't let it dry for too long, okay? Or heat set it for too long, and it will heat set better. These two papers right here can take the heat a little bit better. Oh, look at this, where I've kind of masked this off right here. On the foil, you can see where my heat got, you know, and you get that coloring there. But I would encourage you to utilize this thing and get those different types of rainbow colors into your surface like that if you are doing something like this, if you can benefit from heat setting. Because look at that color, look at that flame in the background. It's like a northern light or something like that. Okay, so the Brilliance, you know what I mean? They're going to dry on there. They're designed to do that, okay? All right, so they dry differently depending on the surfaces right here. The more porous ones, such as the Stardreams right here, they just dry much faster, all right? Okay, so let's move on. Let's get to the other ink that I'm very curious about. A lot of you have the VersaFine Clair, okay? Let's see, make sure I get my ink off of my stamp here. Okay. Let's go with the VersaFine Clair. Okay, now I know that this Clair is not going to dry on these types of papers without heat setting, but the question is, will heat setting work, much less expedite the process? VersaFine Clair on the Stardream like that, if I don't heat set it, I know that it kind of runs over the course of probably a couple days or something like that. Now my VersaFine Clair it's a really new pad, so it's super, super juicy. Okay, so maybe, I don't know, maybe if you're using less ink, by using a much drier pad, medium pad, maybe the drying time is different, maybe the drying ability is different, I don't know. But if it's like super wet and it dries, then we know that if a drier impression will work just fine. Okay. Look at this paper right here. There's a little bit of a resist happening right there. I don't know if it's from the heating. I don't know if the heat setting down here puckered the paper right there, and it's not allowing me to get a good impression. Now I just did one off to the side like that, okay? Okay, let's see if the Clair will dry on Lapis Lazuli. All right. The impressions sure are beautiful on the Stardrain, though. I really like it. I mean, who doesn't like a VersaFine Clair, though, in general? I always used to use VersaFine, too, and this works fantastic as well. I don't know if they just switched over to that one, but they still carry this one. I would say this one's probably better. I like the feel of the pad better on the Clair than just the standard. I don't know if the inks are different or if it's just the pad. Okay, now the VersaFine Clair really stamped out on the... This is interesting to me. On the Stardream, see, metallic, it just takes inks differently. It's more sealed off than the Stardrain Lapis Lazuli, okay? Maybe it's, well, this one's metallic, though, so there's metallic flake in it. Okay, so even holding that down longer gives me kind of a much lighter impression. I could use that. I would use that in conjunction with maybe a darker one, you know, so this would be the background trees, darker one would be foreground, I don't know. But that alone, I'm looking a little bit light. I don't know if I would just use it as is. Okay, so this should stamp out the same as that purple one, because this is kind of the same type of foil right here. Let me see if I didn't kind of pucker the surface on this, where it won't allow me to get a good impression. It gave me a pretty good impression. It kind of fisheyes a little bit where around on the perimeter. It kind of removes ink like a vacuum when I'm lifting. So you might want to hold And just press and hold. It doesn't mean you have to press harder, but just hold it to more of that ink to transfer over. Okay, so let's see how this Claire does here. Let's see, where'd my cap go? Here. All right. Let's see. The Claires are 1, 2, 3. This one's the Claire right here, right? Okay. And here we go. And Lapis Lazuli. Curious about all of these because I do want to use that Claire stamp or pad sometime. Let's try it on the Lapis Lazuli first. You can also use it on the back too. This is my test piece for my cloud. Okay. Okay, I'm not going to spend any more time on those foils with this Claire. Alright, so on these foils right here, the ink is still really quite wet, okay? With a lot of time spent on that. Now, I mean, if you're just doing one scene, you're not doing this whole test, several different surfaces like that. It could possibly work. I'm not sure, though, because I'm having to spend so much time on that it is really starting to pucker the surface, I'm not being patient by any means at all, with this Claire here, but yeah, that ink is just sopping wet here. Now, I mean, to be fair, though, I mean, the Claire is not designed to be used on non-porous papers. Pigment inks in general are not. Okay, they're oil-based. A lot of it dries by absorption and by evaporation. On foils, there's no absorption, or there's just very little of it. It just takes forever, okay? So, in this one, okay, now this one I really spent a lot of time with, but I'm really, really starting to change the surface quality. It's kind of got this leather type of quality to it. See it like that down there where it's really changing that surface of the foil? It might be just changing it too much to the point where it's just not worth doing that. And then see, not only that, but it's still super wet, okay? You can probably dry it to a certain extent to remove a lot of the moisture and oil content out of it, the liquid oil, and then maybe you can just let it air dry for the rest of the time. Or you can just emboss or something like that. Okay, now here's the Stardream right here. The Stardream on the metallic Stardream. Okay, that's pretty dry on there, okay? But it seemed like not a lot of it transferred to begin with, you know, when we were making our impressions, so there's just less ink on there. Okay, let me test this one right here. Down here at the base, I can tell that it's pretty... No, maybe not. I was going to say it. I can tell that it's pretty dry because I could see where it's still really wet, but even just in that area right there, that is really wet. All right, so probably not something I'd recommend, right? You know, on the iridescence or the metallics. Okay, now this is a piece of glossy cardstock. Okay, now this one I think I could tell as I was drying it. I could see the characteristic of it changing. Okay, now this is just cardstock. Okay, now see this? There's, well, I was going to say there's still, like, say, there's a little dot of ink right there. That's because there was a little puddle of it. But the Clair dries on glossy cardstock. Okay, and the glossy cardstock is going to be more porous than the metallic papers, though, too. Okay? All right, so let's try a different ink here. Let's go for a... You know, I'm not going to test... I was going to test the Hero Hues or something like the Moonlight Duos right here. I think it's going to have the same type of effect, though, as the Clair because they're oil-based. Well, the Moonlight Duos are oil and dye. Let's give that a shot here. All right, now I'm not going with the most ideal color for this, though, either. So, let me use a black. I don't want that light blue wouldn't even stand out against the background. All right, so the Moonlight Night. And let's take this and stamp it out onto... Let me just do two surfaces here. Let's take the extremes, okay? Let's go on to the very mirror... Oh my gosh, that didn't give me a very good impression here. This is a brand new pad here, so it's super juicy. Let me give a much lighter impression. Perfect. Okay. Now, I pressed on this one too much, and I probably moved it. So there's a bad impression. There's a good one. Let me show you something, though, too, because this foils are, you know, they're pretty forgiving in terms of your surface quality. So you just take that. You just wipe it right off, and let's go for another impression, okay? Now this is really bowed, so I can see what happened. When I press down, it's squished out like that, okay? All right, so that is that. Let's try it on the Lapis Lazuli here. And again, the hybrid inks, part pigment, part dye, okay? I don't know how they mix those two together, but they do. Okay, so let's take these two right here. Okay, so a mixture of dye, which is water-based, and pigment, there should be less oil content than something like the Clair, right? All right. Remember, both of these impressions are the hybrid. Interesting. That dried beautifully on there. But the inks are a completely different look. Look how much lighter it dries, okay? I'm guessing that one could probably air dry But here's the Brilliance over here, pigment ink. This is the hybrid, okay? You can see, and then this one's still wet, okay? And of course that's Brilliance Silver, but look at this. Much darker, less and less lighter, okay? Hybrid inks right there. Okay, the hybrid inks for me on this one right here, I gave two impressions. One was kind of lighter and one was a little bit darker. But those ones, okay, you know, in terms of drying, do I have a clean finger still? Okay, this finger is still pretty clean. Okay, let's go on that. That is dry. All right, so that surprised me. The hybrid ink on those surfaces dried fine. Okay, now we investigated that. We're going to have to use the hybrid one more time here. Let's go with this intermediate foil here. Okay, we have the very sealed off mirrored foil, and these are the cheaper foils. Okay, now if it dries faster on the cheaper foils, the Recollections one, that'll be good because we don't have to stay on the surface for quite as long when heat drying to dry it, so it won't negatively affect the surface of the foil as much, right? Or it shouldn't. Okay, impression quality looks pretty good. Alright, I just, you know, the thing is, staying on these for too long. Okay, let me see if I can show you in this reflection or angle here. Oops, sorry. Okay, see that? Sorry. Okay, let me get, it's hard to get the angle here. Okay, now I could watch it go from kind of a glossy black, darker black, to a flat black, meaning it's drying, okay? And that's dry right there. All right, so the hybrids, okay, the hybrid black is an option on there. Okay, that's the VersaFine Clair, and that's not dry at all, okay? Those are the Brilliance ones up top, right there. All right, so that is that. Now, let me go to a dye-based ink, okay? My favorite one is the Marvy Black right here, okay? I'm not expecting much from this at all. Any type of performance whatsoever. Stamping on these types of metallics here. I think I've tried it on Stardrains before, but it kind of resists it. Remember, dye-based inks are water-based, and it's like I'm stamping on a piece of glass. But, I don't know. The hybrid surprised me, so let's test out the dye here. Okay, I've re-inked this, so this would be really quite juicy. Alright, so let's do this on this side here. Again, not expecting much of anything. If I get a really good impression on any of these, I'm going to be very surprised. It gave me a better impression than I thought. But see how it's real fish-eyed and kind of, you know, the surface is really resisting it. I probably don't need to do this, but let's just do it on a few of these. Yeah. Very resistant to the impression. Okay, see it? You can't even see it. See it right there? It'd be like taking water-based ink and stamping it on like I said, a piece of aluminum foil or glass or something like that. Well, these are foils, so it is like foil. Man, that gave me a better impression on this one, though. I guess I need to test, you know? This one's the very mirrored gold. That shocks me right there. But let's see if it dries, though, okay? Here's the Stardrain. Okay. Starter Metallics. And see, that's what I expect out of that. But look at that. The dye-based ink gave me just as much of an impression as the VersaFine Clair in terms of value, light to dark. That surprises me. Okay, needless to say, unless you haven't watched other videos, this is Glossy Cardstock. This is Brilliance Black on Glossy Cardstock. Cardstock's dye-based inks work just fine, okay? I'm not going to dry that one. That will dry absolutely for sure, no problem. Okay, let's see what kind of impression I can get with this one on the Lapis Lazuli. And let's see what value it looks like, in terms of light and dark. Kind of stamp and hold for a little bit, let that ink transfer onto it. It's pretty light, okay? And I think it'll dry very lightly as well. Okay. Dye on Stardrain Gold. Okay, it dries very lightly, okay? It'd be more kind of appropriate for kind of a background impression. But that is completely dry. It looks dry. Look how kind of light it is. So it went from something like about that same value, and look how much lighter it is when dry. But you can use that to some effect, and I'm just stamping black, dye-based inks. You can try other colors on there as well. Look at that VersaFine Clair, still very moist, and it'll remain that way. There's the hybrid, and this is the dye. It should dry just fine because the other one dried just fine, the gold. But look how on dark cardstock that becomes very, very light. Okay. Okay, but the dye-based ink on the Stardrain, it's very, very light in value again. I mean, but could work, in terms of just, any type of compatibility. And that's when there's no use. We're not even going to dry that because we can't even see it. Okay, but now this one right here. That was the VersaFine Clair right there. Okay, let me see. It's right here, actually. Hard to not affect the foil with the heat. It's kind of hot. Okay, so that is that. Like I said, not a great impression, but pinky. I have my pinky left here. Okay, that's dry on here. Alright, no ink is coming off on my finger. Less ink applied to begin with, but, that water-based dye ink just dries just fine. Okay, so anyways, that is that. Okay, so my overall take on all of this. Hybrid inks, okay? The Brilliance inks. They are designed to be used on these types of surfaces right here. Well, I don't know, maybe less the hybrid ink, but the Brilliance, they dry on this type of surfaces. This type of surface just fine, okay? More things work on, just about everything works on like glossy cardstock, okay? From the very extreme, VersaFine Clair, just straight oil-based ink, okay? And that's that one right there, the VersaFine Clair. And then this is the Marvy dye-based ink. Everything works on, cardstock, and I knew that, okay? Without heat setting, though, the VersaFine Clair on here, I don't know. But it dried just fine with the heat setting. Okay, so the Clairs on the metallic surfaces, I would probably recommend not using it. We haven't done like a 30-day test of just this thing sitting on the shelf and drying for, a super long time, but I have a feeling that that's going to keep spreading out as I've seen before. The hybrid inks look pretty good though on this surface right here. It dries much, lighter and kind of a frostier tone, but if you spray seal that, the potential of that becoming darker is probably greater, and you can probably spray seal it. I don't know if it'll get that dark again, though. Who knows? Okay, so the foils like this, the thing that surprised me, again, the hybrid inks. Dry on there pretty good. Those are the hybrid inks right there. All right, so drying tests. These two on the foils and iridescents. You could use the clairs on something like this, but then we're starting to get so particular of it not drying on the lapis lazuli. That stamped out really dark and full, and very much lighter on the metallics, where it didn't transfer a lot of inks, and it dries much, much lighter because it looked lighter, with the actual impressions here. I would just say, just in general, if you do like the looks of the metallics and foils using a black ink, you might want to think about the Brilliance inks. And it's because they're specialty inks. They're made for those surfaces like that. But this one really surprised me here in terms of the hybrid. I don't think it has any fast drying type of binders inside the inks, but maybe just the fact that it's a thinner than full oil-based material. It just dries faster. Water's going to dry faster than oil, so I guess it just has just enough water base in it, or maybe it's predominantly, maybe, I don't know if it's 75% dye and 20% pigment. I don't know. The seller of this doesn't know, okay? But they are hybrids, though. Maybe that, it makes up, for the fact that it can, they're dry on these less than porous surfaces like so. So anyways, okay, slightly a scientific process right here. I should have been labeling everything as I went along. But that's my conclusion right there. And the big thing that we wanted to test out, too, was the clair, okay? Now, the clair, again, it looks pretty good on the cardstock that we used here. We all know it's going to dry on matte cardstock, okay? But it dried on the glossy cardstock with heat setting, though. So, the clair is a great pad, but it's not meant, it's not designed to be used on foils and iridescents here. So, the fact that it, is still really wet on there, you know what I mean? That's not, it's not designed for these, so, not really a big deal, but, I don't know. I wouldn't use it on those types of surfaces right there. Now, if you're embossing on these surfaces, then maybe you can use something like that and put some powder on there, or some clear embossing powder, and then emboss it, or something like that. But just impression quality alone, I probably wouldn't do it. All right, so anyways, I don't know, that answers some questions that I've had for myself. I hope this video has come in handy for you. If you have any questions or comments, or if you've done your own tests, especially using different brands of inks on the surfaces like that, and if you've found kind of an incompatibility as far as drying ability goes, please list it in the comment section, so that we can all kind of learn from it. I can learn from it, and we can share it with our fellow paper crafters and stampers and whatnot, and kind of expedite our own kind of a learning curve in terms of figuring out what can go with what. Okay, so I'm still learning all the time, and I have a lot to learn still, but at least we have some general idea now in terms of heat setting, okay? I've been doing a lot of stamping, just letting it air dry, but I'm starting to get into the heat setting right now and just finding out what exactly we can do with that. And I don't know, using our heat guns, for kind of expanding on the surface media compatibility in terms of drying time. Okay, so anyways, thanks again for watching.